population in the entire country, like it's highly concentrated. So Dearborn is going through this right now with allies that we need to think about too. The Arab American and Muslim Americans, they are fighting the school wars on some of this stuff. And some of the debate has become, well, this is anti-LGBT, and so there's a couple of good responses to that idea.
A normal, psychologically sound and stable mind would come to a conclusion that that specific material is nothing but sexually explicit. To the LGBT community, the majority of parents are not here to attack your right to exist in a free society. Criticism of age-inappropriate content is not criticism of the LGBT community.
So just a couple different thoughts to think about, because what people want to hear is, oh, you're trying to erase us, you're trying to make us less human, but no, I think the counter argument is no, we don't want pornographic material to be there. I have two more examples. This one went around a lot, but this one was an assignment. This kind of made me think of the video. The assignment that this father said that his daughter got was, who would you do it with, and what would you do with them? This was in Oregon. And he said his daughter did the assignments because she wanted good grades, but he called for the firing of the teacher, and then there was an investigation.
And didn't he want to collect all of them and keep all the papers?
Yeah, and so that goes to another question. Is I don't know if he ever graded it and turned it back, but this, under Ohio law, thank you for bringing that up because I was going to bring that up too. Under Ohio law, if it's a graded assignment, you can request a copy of the graded assignment. So keep that in mind too. So if there's any assignment related to this video we're talking about, I mean, ask for copies of that.
What does he gain from this? What do you gain from this information? Why has my daughter that naively did the assignment? Because she's scared. She wants to get good grades. She wants to be, get her license. She has to get good grades. And so she does this assignment. Where's the assignment? Why hasn't she had it turned back to her with her grade on it? What is he doing with it? Why is he still teaching? Is it because he's a football coach and Churchill's doing good? Don't want to lose that height? Because football doesn't matter when it comes to our children, okay?
So another thing to add, think about is pitting child safety versus, what do we love? Football. And then I was like, I have to find a woman too. I can't let them off the hook. So this was a really good case, and the thing that I like about this case, this is a Las Vegas mother. It's the Clark County School District, and they made the students memorize. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know what the outcome of the last video was? I'm just curious.
No, that was a more recent one that I just found,
Yeah,
but they called for the firing and resignation. But yeah, I can look into that. But
No worries. I just wondered if you.
I hadn't seen, no. But in this last example, the thing that I thought was interesting is even though they temporarily cut her mic, they told her that they're going to investigate what she's talking about. So even just bringing this up, like, they can pretend they never heard about it, but now it's out there, it's in the public, it's live streamed, everybody knows about it, and so I use that.
I ask you simply, this is a public meeting, and I ask for decorum, and I'm asking Dr. Jara, thank you so much, Dr. Jara. If you don't want me to read it to you, what was that like for my 15-year-old daughter to have to memorize pornographic material and memorize it and it seems like you may have some concerns, and while we're not allowed to engage back and forth in a dialogue, we would absolutely like to make sure that your concerns are addressed.
And you can see in the video, it does appear that Evans's mic was temporarily turned off. She was then allowed to continue addressing the school board, saying that she didn't want the teacher fired, but hopes that by addressing the matter, the problem won't happen again.
So I think get involved at the school board meetings. As I said, I slacked a little bit. I started to go to meetings about a year ago, then I was on a night where I couldn't go, but it's good to observe what's going on and see what other parents are saying. So run for school board if you don't like what your school board's doing. I know that in Olentangy it was a lot of money. What's that?
I said I do open enrollment.
I just thought he'd be a good.
So I can't do it at my kid's school. I know people there.
But I do think if you become a presence at school board meetings, I mean, I don't know what time it is and if you're able, like, I mean, and you're permitted your 3 minutes at every board meeting, they're gonna pay attention to what you've got to say.
Can you yield time to
Oh,
somebody
yeah,
else?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, you had asked me that. Actually, I had that same thought, that if I ever, put minutes, I don't actually know the answer to that. And it's probably within the school board policy, because I thought about that too, is like, you know, what if somebody was doing so great, I could go up there and say, hey, I give this guy 3 minutes.
Right. You get 10
But
people sign up
I'm
to
guessing
speak.
not, I'm guessing there's probably something where they'll probably say not, but I mean, it's worth a shot.
Does the school board decide who gets fired and who gets hired ultimately?
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't
Very
you have to,
important.
ours in Boardman, they had no courage. I didn't, not a single
So,
one of
so,
them stuck
so
up
think
for
about
their
that. Do you think that having like 95% of teachers being more of a Democrat mindset is good?
kids. No.
Well, that's actually right, going to the next point, and what you said too is, the gentleman here, we may be assuming that the board wants to agree with us, that they're being more cowardly, but maybe they don't agree.
There was five members and a superintendent, so 6 total. And they had those kids in those damn masks for over a year when they should have known better, right? I've never heard a single one of them publicly push back.
They listened to the
They
science.
totally went along with everything, you know?
No, they completely brown-shirted it.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody
They
said,
did
I'm
what they were
doing
told.
my job.
They did
Doing my
exactly.
job.
And I'll tell you what,
That's a big cop-out.
Two of our school board members are precinct committeemen here in Mahoning County, Republicans. Did you know that,
No.
Greg?
What are their names?
One
Yeah,
of
exactly.
that's,
We need to out, we need to out.
I can't be a part of any political activity, but yeah, have a
but the two of them are Republican precinct committeemen, and they never
So,
push back.
somebody had just said
I like
something
the-
too
I like their
about
names.
95% of teachers, I don't know if that's true, I think that like the organizations for sure are very liberal. But like my wife's a school teacher, and I think she would love to have some allies to teach with her, so maybe think about becoming a teacher. There was a stat last summer that 50% of the teachers were leaving the profession because of stress. So maybe there's an opportunity for us to like take it back, Jamie. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
Some people are using, what I've heard is that some of the teachers are using the idea of tenure to protect themselves from being fired and all of this, and they're telling some of the younger teachers to allow them to go ahead. This is what they're being trained in some of these, educational seminars and things they're going to, sponsored by the State Board of Ed, and they're going out there and telling them, we'll do this dirty work, we'll do this, because they can't fire us. They
Yes,
can't do this.
I don't know how tenure works in the public schools, like in terms of state education. I know like that's a thing in college, is tenure. I do know my wife,
I thought
she
this was K to 12.
yeah, so I don't know how tenure works there. I know that she was taught for like 14 years and then they moved her to a different school and she's got
Maybe
to
it's
apply.
dependent on the school district too, I
Yeah.
don't know, but.
Go ahead.
Back to those, just a simple question, back to the board examples that you gave. How do they have the right to shut off the microphone when somebody's speaking?
Yeah, but I think that backfired. I don't think they should be allowed to do that, but that backfired on them because now it's viral and it's all over the place.
What's the consequence though? That's the key.
Well, I don't think
Just get somebody else as a board member? Is that the only thing?
Look at Loudoun
Yeah.
County, you get arrested. That's what they're,
In what county?
Loudoun County, Virginia. you
Oh,
got
Virginia,
arrested.
There's a lot.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that's where that sexual assault happened in the.
Now that you say that, I think you're right. There's at least
I think
three,
so.
there's at least 3 lawsuits I know from like ADF that in Virginia, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually where that happened too, buddy. Good call.
You got a question?
So there is a homeschool option. I know, I just put it in there. I know that not everybody can do it, not everybody wants to do it. Oh, yeah.
So what's the best way for parents to, I guess, get rid of a teacher who is pushing their political views on the kids? One in particular that I know from personal experience that was pushing a lot of liberal things on the kids, not even having a balance with conservative things in the readings that were handed out to the kids for their class. And then the same teacher is now showing inappropriate movies. What's the best way for parents to go about trying to get something done with this?
Well, the structure I would follow is ask for the educational materials, Discuss it with the teacher, discuss it with the principal, discuss it with the superintendent, do it at the school board meeting, ask them to fire this teacher. That's, I mean, and then worst case scenario is file a lawsuit. But the lawsuit is something you have to be really, really committed to, because that's gonna take years, and you're gonna face backlash, you're gonna have depositions taken, we view litigation as like a last resort, situations, like.
But the student should get some documentation of
Yeah.
the appropriate classroom
Document,
activity.
yeah, so you're already being involved and knowledgeable about that is really the first step, yeah.
I have three questions, if you can answer them really quickly, I'm just curious because I don't know the answer. So, in our school, we have a boy using the girls' restroom now, and, does a parent have to be informed if that's the case, or is that just all right, and the parent doesn't need to be informed?
No, I don't think there needs to be parent informed.
You think that just-
Ohio law currently doesn't require it, but like, there's been a law in the books in California for 12 years that requires youth schools to allow children, to use the bathroom with their identity. Ohio doesn't require this, that'd be a local school board policy that permits, or even maybe a local building policy that permits that to happen, so. There's nothing,
Permits that students use the opposite bathroom of
yeah,
their
there's
gender.
nothing that would require it or
Okay,
prohibit
I
it.
just was curious, so parent, really, there's no recourse.
Well, there is, I mean, like, if you are offended by it, like, bring it up at the school board.
Right, I just was curious if there was a law or anything.
Not on
that
either,
parent
to my
does.
knowledge, not right now, not on either side of that issue.
Okay, my other question is, two of them, but could somebody be sued? Like, I've had kids come up to me and say, can you please call me they, them, or what have you this year? Can I be sued? I try really hard, but when you're really busy and teaching a whole classroom of kids, it's easy to forget and call a girl that's identifying as a boy, she. Can you be sued, or can a child, if they don't use that, is that
So that's the
ground?
only tangent problem. If there's a school policy that says that, then potentially you could get disciplined for it. I think, here's just some practical advice, a couple of ideas that if that were to come up, that as a defense, you could use, well, you don't want to lie to the student, could be a potential defense that I've seen used. But kind of some practical advice is just try not to use pronouns
Right,
or,
that's what I do, I
or
try to call them
honoraries.
by their name.
Right, exactly.
I try really hard, but it's hard when you're busy all
If there
day.
isn't a school policy, you could just
Yeah.
refuse.
Yeah, exactly, so,
You
but,
could just
but that goes
refuse,
back
you
to the.
cannot recognize the bullshit. If there's no
Yeah, so there's no
policy.
policy on either side, on either way, right?
And then CRT, like, I know our school teaches it, but the person that teaches it actually is transgender, and they called him, I'll go by the name he prefers to be used, but they called him in and said, will you teach this? And he said yes, but then they said, now don't tell anybody though.
Oh, so that's the problem there, is the don't tell anybody.
Right, and I know that for a fact, because, well, it's hearsay, but my good friend's really good friends with him, and so I'm sure it's happened.
Get somebody who has students there to do a public records request or request the curriculum, go to school board meeting, and like, they have to bring that stuff to light before anything will happen.
And they can't legally just try to stay under the radar with that.
They're not supposed to, everything's supposed, especially if it's a public school, it's supposed to all be open to the parents.
Okay.
I think I saw one more.
I
But,
can
so
raise one
homeschooling- oh, yeah.
real quick. Is there we talked about the last recourse is to sue, right?
Yeah.
So can you sue for financial damages? Is that possible?
That's really difficult, that was, when we talked about the I know this isn't apples to apples with parental rights, but like especially with the vaccine cases, like if people were reinstated or with back pain, things like that, it's like what is the damage that you can get? There are possibilities to get damages under violation of constitutional rights, but most of the time that's what they call nominal damages, like maybe $1 or $100 or something like that. The more constitutional cases are more about rights and about enforcement rather than dollars. But I suppose you could bring a claim. Sometimes it's generally, that could be discouraged though, because it could take away from, like let's say we sue the school board for $1.5 million. What's the headline going to be? Parents sue the school board for $1.5 million, and now we've lost the entire, what.
Yeah, but I think there's got to be more of a consequence to stop that behavior. Just firing a teacher, I've heard cases where they'll just go get a job somewhere else. And schools are, looking for teachers. So where does it end? How do you stop it, like for good? We have to take control of all the school boards nationwide?
I mean, honestly, that's what they've done.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So take the school board back, I think is probably
Because the school board
the
didn't
number
know the
one.
role. They'll,
the number one thing.
yeah, say,
So maybe they can put a financial penalty in there.
Yeah, but we pay all in anyhow.
Or-
Yeah, so on the homeschool front, just to let you know, there's resources available.
That's true too.
When I was in high school many years ago, they didn't have anything like these co-ops or anything like that. But there is an organization called the Homeschool Legal Defense Association that they provide legal service to parents who want to homeschool. To my knowledge, Ohio, I'm not aware of many issues with it. Some states are really restrictive and make you register to homeschool. I think Ohio, as long as they're aware, I think so far it's been fine. There's not been issues associated with this. And I did want to bring this up it's not necessarily, yeah, go ahead.
For homeschooling, does the funding for that student go to the parent then? Or
No, because that stays, I mean, I know there's confusion with like
So
vouchers
there's
and all that
another,
stuff.
you know,
That's
where's the
the-
consequence?
Well, that's the part of living in Olentangy, I mean, not to make it about me, but, 15 years ago, I was like, well, we'll pray about whether we have kids one day, are we going to homeschool, or public school, or private school? 5 years ago, I'm like, well, I don't like the way they're teaching kids, but I still, I grew up in public school, I want them to be able to defend their faith, and then now it's been like, well, they're gonna hide things from parents and make parents out to be haters and bigots, and so the school district we moved to, the taxes are very, very, very high. So I understand your concern with that. I feel the same thing, why am I spending so much on taxes if I ultimately don't send my kids to the school, but we'll see what happens. But there is a rule in Ohio that allows you to excuse a student and potentially get credit for religious instruction off of school district property. And so there's actually a company called LifeWise Academy. They'll go right to the school, they'll pick up your kids, they'll take them off campus, teach them about the Bible, take them back to school. So that's a really weird quirk in Ohio law that you could potentially take advantage of. If, like, let's say if it's a required class, it might be hard. What's that? I'm in Ohio, I'm licensed in Ohio, so I have, I give you the.
Saying that it's been a Supreme Court case.
Yeah.
About it, and it's called release time.
So it's pretty neat. So if there's this could be a potential option for if there's a CRT class or a class that's not like a required class that you don't want your kid to go to. I mean, that could be a potential option to get them excused during that class. And then some people are talking about parents' rights. I wanted to bring this up real quickly because there's a case called Tinker. This was from the 70s, the Vietnam War protest. It said it could hardly be argued that either students or teachers shed their constitutional rights to free speech at the gates. But there's been lawsuits related to teachers' rights to have Bibles on their desks and things like that. But I took this right from the ACLU website. So this is one of the things as lawyers we try to do. We try to distinguish. And I did this last week. Or actually, I might have done it on Monday. So this is real recent. It says, while teachers are completely free to have deeply felt religious beliefs, it is not appropriate for them to use the classroom to advocate the religious beliefs to public school children. And I say to that, if that's what you believe, then that goes both ways.
yeah.
You can't spread ideology one way or the other. So teachers do have a certain amount of rights, like I think if there's a pride flag on the wall or a Bible on the desk, I think that's okay. But I do think we need to call out when there's ideological teaching. And I do think that means even Christian teachers proselytizing during the whole class probably shouldn't be happen, but the Ohio Supreme Court, as early as 2013, enforced the right of it. It said that a school telling a teacher to take a Bible off his desk was not, what's the word they used, was neither reasonable nor valid, and the order infringed on his right. This is a very complicated case with a lot of weird facts, but I thought that was a very good, that's 10 years ago, so that's not that long ago in law terms, that held that. And so just real quick, little bit of advice on 12 steps to protect your children from protective services, because we're not here yet in Ohio, but thinking of California, and some of you already raised questions, but some of this is repeat. But one of the pieces of advice is make sure you have a counselor that you know has been vetted, maybe has religious credentials or things like that, because the schools right now, their counselors are going to tell your children that they're not who they are and that they should change. So have that on file. So then make an instruction to the school. My child is not to speak to any counselor unless his or her counselor is present. So if you're homeschooling, it still says, if not homeschooling, develop a positive relationship with teachers, volunteer, tell them you're praying for them, things like that. Become an active member of church, because that's something, two things: for encouragement and also for moral support. So if something does go down where a school accuses you of something because they think you're not affirming them, not only can you have a character witness, but you can have somebody sit with you and be with you and show that, hey, this person is engaged in the community. One of the advices PGI says is don't, even though corporal punishment is legal under Ohio law, do not do any corporal punishment publicly ever, because that could be an excuse that they would make. Don't leave children home alone. There is no law in the state of Ohio for how long children are allowed to be home alone, or what age they are. But just make sure if you do leave them home alone, they have a plan, they have a 911 number, they know who to call, they have food, they have activities and things like that. For infant health care concerns, because that's something that people, if you're concerned that, somebody might say, oh, they're not eating or they're not growing or whatever, make sure you have a doctor document along the stages that they're not doing anything inappropriate. Have a medical ally. That's the same thing as with a psychologist. Have a medical doctor that's able to know your history, know you very well. This is an interesting one to me. When I was an undergrad, I did research on Ritalin, and schools would get money for each student that was on Ritalin, and so if you have your private psychology that says your child doesn't need it, because in public schools sometimes, because the teacher is overwhelmed and doesn't want to deal with children, they'll prescribe it, and they get kickbacks and things like that. So be aware of that. If you're homeschooling, make sure you comply with.
You're happy to look into the chemical compound of Ritalin?
Yeah, it's on the it's a class 3 barbiturate, which is the same as cocaine.
Oh, very similar to crystal meth.
It's actually on the same category under the federal government as cocaine. Homeschooling, make sure you abide by state law. Make sure they're getting meeting all the requirements. This is the gender identity issues that we kind of already talked about. Let's see, make sure my notes are not missing anything. Yeah, same thing, make sure you are part of a local church, you have a licensed counselor or psychologist. Make sure your home, I know this seems kind of silly, but make sure it's always clean, the food is stocked, things like that, so that they don't have any excuse. Now, if CPS ever does come to your door, they need a warrant, they can't come in, don't invite them in. So when I used to teach the class at Columbus State, if you get pulled over by a police officer and they say, may I search your vehicle? The answer is always no, because you have a constitutional right to privacy in your vehicle. So if there's no probable cause, like there's not a bloody knife, on the front seat or a bag of cocaine in the back, they can't search your car. And so this is one of the things just to make you aware of. If CPS comes knocking on your door, they need a warrant. They can't just enter your home. And so that gives you, reschedule a visit. That gives you an opportunity to do the things we talked about, like get medical documents and things like that. Because I don't think that we're too far from them saying, oh, well, you must be abusing your child if you have these backwards views. And then here's from that great movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
I guess this is just another lost cause, Mr. Payne.
So he goes on to say that lost causes are the ones that we fight for. So I hope that this hasn't been, discouraging or depressing. That's why I wanted to start off at the top and say, hey, this is what the courts say about parental rights. I think the landscape doesn't look great, but I do think the law is still on our side. And so just continue to be involved. And with that ends the presentation portion that I have. If you have any other questions or thoughts. Yeah, go ahead.